Well, welcome everyone. It is LittleTex on the dot. How you doing, John?
Good, Michael. It was a quick week, huh? Yeah, beautiful week, actually. Holiday weekend.
It was gorgeous. Memorial Day weekend, and boy, what a filled weekend of sports and fun. But as you know, John, we love to little text on the dot. We love to start with birthdays, and you just before we went on air, you just shared with me whose birthday it is today. One of my heroes back when I started thinking about American football. So
Yeah,
take it away.
I dropped a bomb on you, didn't I? I wasn't prepared last week. You had
And
all
boy, could he throw a bomb?
yeah. Well, Joe Willie Namath. I don't want to call him a one hit wonder, but when you think about it, '69, when he won the Super Bowl for the Jets, and I can remember that day because my dad and my uncle had bet the Colts heavy, thinking that this upstart Jets team, how could they win? And they were very unhappy that day, as I remember. But then, really, after that, Joe Namath really was injured much of his career and really never did anything. And when you look at his numbers, they're not Hall of Fame numbers, but I guess he's in the Hall of Fame, right? Or not?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Joe Willie Namath. Well, he just had pizzazz and the way he carried himself and his confidence, and he was a great player. There's no doubt he was a great player.
Injuries hurt him. I mean, if he didn't have the injuries, he was as good as anybody.
Well, and the technology back there probably had the orthopedic surgeons that they have today, he probably could have had a longer career and done better. But back then, if you hurt your knee, and if you, there was one doctor that orthopedic surgeon. I remember his nickname was Slash. He was
wow. Well, I can't imagine Joe, who ran very hard, if you remember back in the day, if he would have put the time into rehab, even if there was, he might have backed off on that a little bit.
It's funny you mentioned that. I think there was a game. I don't know which. I don't think it was the Super Bowl. It was in New York, and it was an important game. And some sports writer was walking into a hotel that had a special party place where people would party. And it's the morning of this big game that the Jets are going to have. And this sports reporter is walking in, and out comes Joe Namath, and he's thinking, what's going on here? They got a game today. He's coming out of this place that's known for parties. So,
well, that reminds me of a story. I mean, it's funny you said that because whenever you tell me a story, it reminds me of something that someone told me. And we had and you probably remember Ken Landreau. I think he was a Arizona State or USC guy.
Yep. I remember watching him when he was with the California Angels.
Yes. He was our hitting coach for 3 or 4 years. And he played with Bobby Bonds, Barry's dad, and with the Angels. And whenever actually, he must have played with him in the National League because it was a Chicago story. They were playing the Cubs. And Kenny was a rookie Bonds' year, and Bonds took care of him, brought him out to dinner after games, and you playing a lot of day games in Chicago. And Kenny says after a day game in Chicago, we went out 7, 8 o'clock, and we had a day game the next day at 1 or 2. And he says we exited the bar at about 10 o'clock just in time for batting practice in the morning. And he says, I was wiped out. There was no way I could play. Bobby Bonds hit 3 home runs. As if nothing ever happened. Didn't get any sleep. Had a little bit more than he should have consumed the whole night. And he put on a show. And he was that good, they say, Bobby Bonds. He was that good of a player. And that's probably one of the reasons he bounced around a little bit.
Yeah. He was a great player, Bobby. I remember watching Bobby and Kenny Landreau. And, it's interesting you mentioned, we talk about Joe Namath, who obviously liked to have a good time. And and lots of athletes, I think of Reggie Jackson. I mean, some of the stories Reggie said he was always making sure he was with someone the night before big games. And there's a great story. Who the famous Green Bay Packer wide receiver when during his first Super Bowl, and he went out all night. What is his name? It's a great one of the great wide
Paul
receivers.
Huntley? Was it Paul
No,
Huntley?
no, Paul. No, because Paul was a running back. He was the wide receiver, and he was the MVP of the game.
Jerry Kramer?
No, he's a lineman. He's
Okay.
a lineman here. I'm going to get Green Bay Packers roster. I should know this, but
Well, it's interesting while you're looking it up. It just seems like that era of players, they could party pretty good and still play. And today's guys are more worried about, getting special juices in their body and getting enough rest. And it's an amazing. You would think it would be just the opposite, but it isn't really. Today's players are more keeping track of or taking care of their body better than the old time guys.
well, absolutely. Your son is as part of that. Your son.
Yeah, he's ruined it for a lot of guys, I guess.
Okay, I came up with a name, and I apologize to his family because he's a great player, a great Packer, Boyd Hamilton Dowler.
Oh yeah, Boyd Dowler, yeah.
And it's a classic. Everyone knows the story, so this is not like a Jim Bouton, telling it behind the scenes. Yeah, he went out and partied the night before the Super Bowl, and then he was the MVP.
Well, let me throw it back because I know you got a list of birthdays, and we don't want to forget those.
Yeah, we got.
I had a couple more. Brooke Shields. That was back in our era. We all liked looking at Brooke when she was a model. Still looks pretty good right now at 58.
Yes.
Leah Thompson, remember Back to the Future?
Mm-hmm.
She's 62. Hard to believe, huh?
Wow.
She's our age. And one of my favorite comedians, Chris Elliott. Do you remember Chris Elliott? He was in Groundhog Day. He was the camera guy, and he was in Raymond. Everyone loves Raymond. He was the brother.
Love him.
So happy birthday to those guys.
Those are birthday. Okay, well, now my turn for birthdays. And Clint Eastwood, I lived in Oakland, right around the corner from where Clint Eastwood went to elementary school. So, love Clint, and what a great actor and director. And so some of the birthdays I have, some of my friends, I want to wish Amy Bravey, Amy Bravey, who I met. She's a flight attendant for Breeze Airways. And Breeze, I didn't know this until a few months ago. Breeze was started by the founder of JetBlue. He retired after he did great with JetBlue, and he retired. And then he said, I need to start another airways. And they started Breeze. And that's where I met Amy. And Amy saw my Super Bowl ring, and she was at BYU when Jim McMahon was the quarterback. So she knew all about sports, and we talked about, the Super Bowl and the NFL and everything. So, but it's her birthday today. Amy, happy birthday. I think she's in Virginia right now, getting ready to go on her Breeze trek, which takes her to New York and Vegas. So anyway, happy birthday, Amy. And then also, I got to go to my list here. It would have been Dutch Faring's 111th birthday today. And I don't know if you know Dutch Faring. Do you know Dutch Faring?
No.
He was a good friend of mine, and he would have turned 111 today. Just like tomorrow, it's Marilyn Monroe's birthday. So I always love to give birthdays of people that maybe have transitioned. And Dutch Faring went to Purdue University. And have I ever told you this, John?
No.
Oh, you're going to love this story. He went to Purdue University. He played baseball, football, basketball back in the 30s. He would have turned 111 today. Yeah. And I met him when I was a freshman at Stanford in 1979. I was out practicing, whether it's football or baseball, and here's this guy running, and he looked pretty old at the time. And I said, God, I hope when I get his age, I can run like that. So I stopped him, and we started talking. He said, yeah, I was the head baseball coach here when your coach, Mark Marcus, was on the team. And we had a catcher named Bob Boone.
Wow.
And so he was the baseball coach when Stanford went to the College World Series back in 1967.
Wow.
But he went to Purdue, and he actually played in the major leagues. He played, and listen to this. You're going to love this, John. He played in one game. If you go on Dutch Faring, one game in the major leagues, he was a catcher for the Chicago Cubs. And at Wrigley Field, they got a picture of him in that one game. Guess who he's tagging out?
Lou
Gehrig.
Oh my gosh.
They got him. Can you imagine? You get one game.
Only game.
And he's tagging out the iron, what do they call Lou Gehrig? The
iron horse.
Iron horse. So he's tagging him out. And anyway, his career was short in baseball, but he got to the major leagues. I don't care. One game is better than no games. And tagging out Lou Gehrig, wow.
And you got a picture of it too.
Yeah, there's a picture. It's unbelievable.
He can tell his family he played in the major leagues and for so long.
Oh yeah,
look at the pictures I have.
Yeah. So anyway, he decides to get into coaching, and somehow he gets to UCLA in the mid to late 40s. He's coaching football and baseball at UCLA, and he's assistant coach. Yeah. And his good friend that he went to school back in Purdue with, they were best buddies because this good friend played sports, and his good friend is coaching basketball, I think, in Indiana, and doing really well at the high school level. And Dutch writes to his friend and says, hey, John, you should come here to UCLA because there's an opening for the head basketball coach position. And John says, I've done pretty well here in Indiana. I'm going to apply for that job. Well, guess who his best buddy was? The Pyramid of Success, John Wooden.
Oh my gosh.
So Dutch Faring was instrumental in getting John Wooden to UCLA. So
amazing. Wow.
There you have the story.
I'll tell you what, you learn something new every day on the dot.
So anyway, happy birthday to Dutch Faring up there in the basketball court and baseball field and the football field in the sky. Okay, next I got on the docket here, Dutch. Let's see here. My cousin Tom Lund's birthday today. Happy birthday, Tommy. It's my cousin. Dave Fleming, the voice of the San Francisco Giants. It's Dave Fleming's birthday. He's a Stanford Cardinal.
And he used to work for the Pawtucket Red Sox back in the International League days.
Look at that.
I know Dave very well. Good guy.
Dave, I just sent him a text. He's never responded to my text, but I think I sent him a happy birthday text. Yeah. And Denny Brisley. Denny Brisley is a good friend of mine. She is high up in the echelons of government, and wherever she is, she's helped, many administrations, and it's her birthday today. And Brent Barker, who is the son of Coach Barker, who's Mr. Basketball in Kentucky, his son Brent's birthday today. And Sam Fisher, happy birthday to Sam Fisher. Sam and I met, he was the voice of KZSU Sports, and now he's doing venture capital, and I want to connect him with, we'll take a little break here at some point, with Anacia. And Anacia is amazing. It is a topical that if you have any skin issues, like I have sunburn from this weekend, but if you have soreness or anything, this formulation is amazing. And I got to get Sam Fisher, whose birthday today, together with John David Rainbolt. So tomorrow it's Marilyn Monroe's birthday, and I wanted you, because we're not going to be live tomorrow, and I don't know if I'm going to come on again. So let me just tell tomorrow's birthday. We've got my cousin Mark Dodderer's birthday out in Arizona. Happy birthday tomorrow to Mark. And Greg Brown, who was the captain of the Harvard football team back in my day. Happy birthday to Greg. Greg and I went to Mater Dei High School. It's his birthday tomorrow. Dr. Lisa Lee Pate, who's an amazing woman. She went to high school together in Huntington Beach, and it's her birthday tomorrow. She got her law degree from Bolt Law School in Berkeley and got her medical degree from Stanford. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
No, that's impressive.
Oh, unbelievable. Steve Judson's birthday tomorrow is a great attorney, a guy who I know really well. Mitch Adams, fantastic. He's got a basketball that maybe these NBA guys, because of the NBA finals are coming up. Mitch Adams' birthday tomorrow. My former, would it be my brother-in-law? No. any event, Claude Gobert, I don't even know. Claude Gobert, who's the brother of my ex, Claude Gobert. Happy birthday, Claude. A great guy. And I'm probably missing some people, but the bottom line is I do care. And my mother's birthday is on Friday. My mother would have turned, I don't know what she would have turned. She doesn't like talk. She didn't want me talking about her age, but her birthday was June 2nd. So there you go. And I do have a friend, Kathy Galvin. Kathy Galvin, happy birthday, June 2nd. And well, you know what? I love to do this. If you get birthdays, I am going to send this recording to them and say, hey, I mentioned you on our show, LittleTex on the Dot.
You know, it's funny, you were talking about Dutch a little while ago and had one at bat in the big leagues, right?
Yep.
I don't know if you remember, he played with your dad and then he managed your dad, Frank Verdi, who was a minor league manager for many years. And when Frank was coming up through the Yankees organization, he made it to the big leagues, and Casey Stengel was the manager, and he knew Frank wasn't going to be there long, and he got him on deck in a game. And there was one out, and Mickey Mantle was up before him, and he was going to have Frank pinch hit for somebody, whoever was hitting behind Mantle. And Frank was, all excited. He's going to get a chance to hit. And Mantle hits into a double play. And 3 outs are made. And Frank never got to play in a game in the major leagues. He was on deck and never got in at bat. He did play defensively, I think, at shortstop the next inning. But he's one of those guys. He's like the Moonlight Graham of the Yankees back then, where he played probably 10 years in the minor leagues, finally gets a shot, is on deck, and Mantle hits into a double play.
Wow. I'm just looking him up. I'm looking him up right here. You're absolutely right. Frank Michael Verdi, born, and guess what his birthday is?
That can't be May 31st.
Same as 2 days from now, same as my mom's, June 2nd.
Wow. Yeah.
He was born June 2nd, 1926. So happy
birthday, Frank. He was a good guy. He managed in Syracuse for a number of years, won a couple Governor's Cups. Was one of those old school guys that was coming, who was managing in a period where it was changing as far as player development, where they wanted younger players to play, and Frank always wanted to play the old guy. And one of his last jobs in baseball was with the Mets, and I can't tell you how many times he would come over when he managed in Tidewater. And he'd come back to Syracuse telling my father, these Mets, they don't know what they're doing. They want me to play this guy, Hubie Brooks. Who's Hubie Brooks? He's never going to make it. And Hubie Brooks was a pretty good Mets player. And about 15 years in the big leagues. But
right.
Frank was old school, man. And he wasn't going to bend for anybody.
Well, what's amazing about Frank, he played in the minor leagues for 18 seasons from 1946 to 1963.
Yeah, and a few of those years he was a player manager, I think. Probably the last 2 or 3. Wow. He managed and played, and managed probably another 25, 30, 35 years. And I think he's probably in the top 5 all-time wins as a minor league manager.
He should be. Do they have them? I mean, and this is, you would know this, of anyone that would know this. Do they have a minor league Hall of Fame?
No, it's been talked about for years. The International League has a Hall of Fame that we created. We didn't create. We brought it back in probably around 2008 or so. But it was dormant for probably about 40 years, and we thought we should bring it back. And Randy Mobley, who was the president of the International League at the time, and my dad and a few other old-time general managers, George Sisler Jr., and we brought it back and put people like Frank Verdi in the International League Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Because, he probably managed 15 years in the league and probably won about 5 or 6 Governor's Cups and 3 or 4 pennants with Tidewater, Syracuse, Columbus, Rochester. He managed just about every team in this league. And guys like that should be remembered. Unfortunately, Major League Baseball and the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown really don't have a minor league division. But they should. That's something they should consider, because that brings more people to your venue, because there's so many minor leaguers like Frank that came through sports.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
There's a lot of
definitely.
people too.
Yeah. Frank Verdi, what a thank you so much for sharing that. That's wonderful information. Well, I talked about, when I sent out the message that we're going live again. And we do this, by the way, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. It's LittleTex, which is John Simone, and Dot, and I'm Mike Dotterer. Those are our nicknames. And we come on live, and we actually we have companies and organizations that we endorse. And John, do you want to talk a little bit about your company again? Throw it a little, just a little piece on what you do.
Yeah, a little bit. Sports Fields Inc. is a installer of synthetic and natural grass fields all around the country, and we're working on some big projects. Hopefully, I can change that screen pretty soon behind me and show you some of the bigger projects we have going in out west and all over the country, actually. And we enjoy putting in fields and seeing that finished product. There's nothing better than the lines of a baseball field. I know, all other sports really don't have what a baseball field has, with cutouts and circles and all the neat things that make a baseball field a baseball field.
Well, I'm just flashing it down there below. Oh, that's Alex's. Let me go to the next one.
Well, you can talk about Alex too. He's just got back from your favorite city, Las Vegas, this past weekend. He went there with a buddy, and they had a good time. Showed me some photos from the Pawn Stars building, and stayed at the Wynn and had a good time with a few of his friends for the holiday weekend. So he's hopefully back in his gym, working his little rear end off and making some money. So.
Yeah, well, a shout out to Alex. Again, we mentioned this in our first broadcast last week. Alex Simone, and you'll see right there the little ticker there. If you have a son or a daughter, he probably does. He work with the?
He has, but he works mainly with professional players, and like I said, college and baseball. He hasn't really got into softball as much, but he has had some girls. Matter of fact, Dickie Woodridge, a local kid here, his daughter, I believe she goes somewhere. She's a college player right now. His daughter, and then a guy named Bobby Nandon, his daughter played at Lemoyne College, and he trained her when she played for the I guess they had the Panamanian Games or whatever. She played for Columbia because her dad was from Columbia, and he trained her before those games. So yeah, he has trained some pretty good softball players, matter of fact.
Oh yeah, I mean, Alex, again, if I had a son or a daughter, and by the way, there's still hope for me, because I got to mention this. I went on Yahoo, and they give the top trends of what are the top trends, and there's a name right at the top of the top trends, and I said, who is that? And her name's Noor Al-Fallah. Well, guess who Noor Al-Fallah is married to?
Well, you told me, so I would know. So,
well, go ahead and tell the audience.
Well, it's Al Pacino, which is hard to believe, right?
Yeah, Al Pacino, and Al Pacino is 83 years young, and I love his. I mean, what an actor! Do you like Al Pacino?
Yeah, I mean, Godfather, that had to be his best. He's done some other things too, but Godfather was incredible.
Yeah, he's incredible. I love Al Pacino. Anyway, 83 years old, and his girlfriend is, I think, in her 20s, something like that. Well, she's expecting. And so that like everyone around the world, are people like, oh my gosh, Al Pacino. And I went online, and I said, God, I wonder how many kids he already has. And I guess it's 3. He has 3 kids.
Wow.
So I guess he's looking to have more. So now he's going for 4. And if he gets one more, he's got a basketball team.
I think he might stop right here. He might not have much time to have another one.
Yeah. Speaking of basketball, what are your thoughts about the NBA, the NBA finals coming up?
Well, I think, I think that Celtics Heat series was incredible. Boston probably shouldn't have been down 3-0, but then they fought back, and I think it's hard to beat any team, especially in the playoffs, 4 times in a row. And Miami's just kind of got that togetherness. They might be a team of destiny. they share the ball, pass the ball, and Boston basically, plays one-on-one, and that worked for a while, but in the playoffs it's a little bit different. But I still think Denver's the best team, and I hope it goes 7, because you always like that game 7, right? The unexpected usually is a good game. That the last one was a dud, but you got to think Denver is the best team in basketball. I think they're 11-1 so far in the playoffs, and really probably could have won that one game.
So you're picking Denver.
I got to go with Denver.
Yeah.
I love Miami. I love the underdog, but I think Denver's just too good this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good. I'm glad. You know what? You know what's great about this? The timing is perfect, because I'm going to be asking you every week who your picks are, LittleTex's picks for the week. And I just joined, and I'm going to be sharing this with you because they reward sharing. I love it. I just joined. It's called Trade Fan, and it's fantasy sports stocks and stock market. It says fantasy sports stocks market. So it's called Trade Fan, and I'm going to send it to you, John, because we get rewarded for sharing. And as we know, sharing is caring. And I've never been much of a fantasy guy, but it's pretty amazing what's going on with the technology. And I'm sure I'm going to be able to do something where I can pick the Nuggets. So I'm going with your Nuggets as well, even though I love Florida and what the Miami Heat have done. Wow. I mean, were they 8th seed?
Yeah, they really didn't play good and had to fight their way in to the playoffs, and I think they had to beat the Bulls just because they were doing that one game play-in, and they had to beat the Bulls just to advance. Otherwise, they would have been out, and Chicago would have been playing, and they would have been eliminated fast. But Miami has Jimmy Butler and a host of guys you've never heard of, and it works right now in the NBA, and they probably have. I don't know how big of an NBA fan you are, but, Pat Riley was coach of the Knicks. And as a Knicks fan, we were all sad when he left, but he left for Miami and has done very well there. They've won 3 or 4 championships. He's been in the finals probably, I think, 6 times now as an executive. I think he took them to 3 NBA championships. So Pat Riley knows what he's doing. He hired a really good coach, and Eric Spoelstra, and has put together a pretty good team and knows talent. He's kind of like the Pat Gillick of the NBA, as far as I'm concerned, because he's moved around and he wins wherever he goes.
Yeah, he's a great coach. Great coach. And I'll tell you, I'm a big proponent of coaching. And when you reach that level, whether it's the NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL hockey, NFL football, soccer, whatever, this is just my opinion. I believe 80% is coaching, 20% is talent. Because at that level, would you agree, John, at that level, everyone can play?
Yeah, I think everyone can play. And I think, like you said, a good manager or a good executive can get the best out of the players that maybe some other coaches can't. And, you've played in various cities and for various teams, and you've had good coaches, I'm sure, and some guys you wonder how they got the job. And same with myself, I've had a few managers, and you tell I remember telling Pat Gillick and a few other people that were hiring these guys after we got them, I was like, who does this guy know to get this job? Because he's not going to make it. And it usually happened, and it's not like more than the most, anybody else, but when you see or be around managers, the good ones, the Bobby Coxes. He was unparalleled. There's nobody better than Bobby. Bob Baylor was an infielder who played in LA and came up with the Orioles organization. And to me, he would have been a great major league manager, and had some issues in Toronto and then never got back into the game. But Frank Verde was a great manager. If he could have just kept his mouth shut and did what the organization wanted, he would have had a shot at the big league. So there's a lot of guys that are good. And then there's some guys that are good assistants.
Yes.
And you see that a lot when they have to take over. It's a little bit different.
Oh, yeah. You see that in American football. You see some great defensive coordinators who are just outstanding and outstanding offensive coordinators.
Yep.
And then they think, oh, I'm going to become a head coach. And it's a whole different ballgame, different mindset. So and this kind of gets back to knowing yourself, know thyself. If you know who you are, you just say, hey, this is my lane. This is what I'm good at.
Yep.
And
You know, Pat Riley also is a Schenectady, New York guy. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah. And you know what I love about he could dress.
Yes.
Pat Riley and the former mayor of Willie Brown. Willie Brown was the mayor of San Francisco, and Pat Riley. I would love to go to lunch and be sitting next to Pat Riley and Willie Brown because these guys could dress to the T.
And I don't know if you saw Riley on TV yesterday when the game was almost over. He got up, and I was watching the game with my son. I said, because he thought the game was still, Boston could come back, and I'm like, Pat Riley got up, game's over. And he was walking to his to the locker room or wherever he was walking to. He knew the game was over, and he looked great. He had the suit on, the tie, and the hair slicked back. Still got hair too, because Pat's got to be up there now.
Oh yeah, well, I tell you, I wish you could share some of that hair with me. But well, you know what? We talk NBA, a big week for the NHL.
And you're the hockey expert. I just watched Stanley Cup. You've got nephews that actually played hockey, so
I do.
You know more about it than me. But I've been picking the Florida Panthers the whole way.
Wow,
and I'm sticking with them. I love Vegas, the way how they play, and I know you're a Vegas guy, but I picked Florida since the first series they played. And
did you place a bet, John?
I should have. But I didn't think I knew enough about hockey to do that. So,
oh my gosh! Well, we're gonna start, having some fun because this new entity, as I said, I mentioned it to you. But it's called Trade Fan. So everyone, and I'll if you're interested in having fun, Trade Fan. But any event, the NHL. The Las Vegas Golden Knights are playing the Florida Panthers. And Las Vegas, if they were to win the Stanley Cup, this would be their second world championship for the city of Las Vegas. To last year, the Aces, the WNBA team,
right. Yeah,
they won. The Aces won, and that team is owned by Mark Davis, who's the owner also of the Raiders.
Yeah.
And did you hear about who the new co-owner or partner? I guess I don't know what percentage has a percentage of the Raiders. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. Now it's leading to speculation that when Garofalo's hurt, maybe Tom might just step in for a few weeks and fill in. But Mr. Brady, until he stops playing, and I'm going to ask you this as a player: when do the rumors stop that he's going to play? I mean, can he just? I mean, you played. Can you just do whatever he's doing now and then just go to training camp and play?
Well, no. I mean, the game has changed a lot. I mean, I've watched it. Because my career was so short. I had, NFL stands for not for long. A lot of people. So, but I've been watching closely the game as it evolves. And Tom Brady might be able to come back because they really do a good job of protecting the quarterback. But for Tom, I think he's going to look at the team, and if the offensive line is not protecting Garoppolo, I don't think Tom's going to say, "Yeah, let me in." I don't think so because Tom. And by the way, speaking of knowing thyself, Tom's personality, he's a Pegasus, and you guys are probably thinking, "What's a Pegasus?" Well, I co-authored a book with my mentor. One of my mentors, Alex von Allman. It's called Zodian. You can look it up on Amazon. You can get the book. I think it's also on Audible, or it's going to be on Audible. And it talks about personality. And Tom Brady and I have the same personality. So when I watch Tom Brady do what he does, like when he went through his divorce, I also went through a divorce, and I was kind of feeling the same kind of things that Tom was feeling. So I think, Tom's big picture, I think Giselle was more linear pragmatic, and my ex-wife, she was linear pragmatic. And that's a tough thing in a relationship. So anyway, bottom line, I hope to meet Tom because we're having our Raider alumni. I just got the invitation again in Las Vegas in August. So I can't wait I've never met Tom. I have friends that are good friends with Tom and their family, but I've never personally met him. So hopefully I'll get to meet him this summer, later this summer.
Well, maybe you can bring a guest with you, and we can do On the Dot from Vegas that week.
You know what, John? That's a good idea. You and
Yeah,
I fly out to Vegas, and then we can maybe stop by some fields and say, "Hey, you guys need a new field."
that's right. Well, it's funny because we do the Raiders. We do a lot of work for them, and I think we're doing some work for them shortly. But the Raiders practice fields and things like that, Sports Fields Inc. Has done for a number of years.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing.
yeah,
So, well, gosh, I love this show because when we jump around, and at the first I was going to try to talk about this, because you always say ladies come first, and this is an amazing story. I was reading about her today in the sports section. The New York Times had a whole big section on Rose Zhang. I think that's how I pronounce Zhang. Do you know the name Rose Zhang?
no,
I know not many do. And it kind of reminds me of a story back in, it was 1996. Did I tell you the story about Tiger Woods?
no, I don't think you did.
Okay, let me share this story because this Rose Zhang has has the opportunity to be the Tiger Woods of women's golf. She's not there yet, but let me just tell you the story about Tiger. 1996, I was the president of the Stanford Club of the East Bay in the San Francisco East Bay, and we had a fundraiser. And Tiger was on the golf team at Stanford. And I didn't know much about Tiger, but I heard he was a really great young player. But not many people knew about Tiger back then like they do now.
Yeah.
And so in any event, we had a fundraiser, and one of the golf coach at Stanford said, "Hey, Tiger will auction off a foursome that you can play for Tiger. And if someone wins it at the fundraiser, it was at Jack London Square, Scott's Seafood place. I remember it vividly. We had about 500 alumni, and a lot of these people, trust me, they have money. So we're raising money. So I'm the auctioneer, and I get up on stage and said, "Okay, we're going to open up the auction. There's a great player we've got down on the farm named Tiger Woods. And he's going to be a great player. Not many of you may know about him, but he's just a great young player. And we're going to auction off a foursome." So, and I asked Bob Murphy. Bob was the voice of Stanford sports at the time. I said, "Bob, what should we start the bidding off?" And Bob said, "Well, let's just start at 1,000. That someone's going to just, that we'll start at 1,000. So 500 people. I said, "Okay, we're going to start the bidding at $1,000 for play a foursome with Tiger Woods. How many would like to have a foursome with Tiger?" Guess how many hands went up, John?
None.
Zero.
Oh my gosh.
No. And I looked around and I said, "Oh my God, Bob, what do I do?" He said, "Take it off the board. We're not, he's really good. We're not letting him go under 1,000." So we took it off the board. Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. So I guess those Stanford businessmen weren't that smart then.
That was like buying, that was like, people that bought Google stock when it went public. They didn't do it. So any event, Rose Zhang, she is a two-time NCAA champion at Stanford. She won it back-to-back, her freshman year, her sophomore year. I mean, it's amazing. Well, she decided after her sophomore year to go pro, and she is playing this weekend in Jersey City at a famous course in Jersey called Liberty National.
Wow.
And some of the members that play at Liberty National, some name, Mark Wahlberg plays there, Justin Timberlake, Eli Manning, Robert Kraft, Rudolph Giuliani plays golf there. So this weekend, it's called the Mizuho America's Open. And all the great women golfers are going to be there. And Mizuho is, I had to look it up. I didn't know it's the third largest bank in Japan, and they're sponsoring this. So it's going to be a big event. I'm going to follow it because this woman, they're saying that she might break all records of all golfers ever, potentially. I mean, she's that good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to look.
I wonder if she's played in the futures. They have a futures event here in Syracuse every year, and they take golfers that are 12, 13, 14 years old and have them play in local courses. And I wonder if she played when she was that young.
She might have.
Because there used to, like I said, every year they've had that tournament here. and probably for the last 10 or 15 years. So she might have been one of the people that came here.
Yeah.
And no one knew who she was, kind of like Tiger. No one knew who she was.
Yeah. Well, and one of my friends who I went to Stanford with, she was a swimmer, and her daughter, her name is Claudia Schwartzer, was her maiden name. Popoff is her married name. Her daughter, Sophia Popoff, was ranked like 300 plus in the world. And last year, I don't think this has ever happened in golf. Someone ranked so low, she won the British Open of women, the women's British Open, Sophia Popoff.
Well,
and she played golf at USC, University of Southern California. And I'm going to look her up because I'd love to see Sophia teamed up with, you never know, with Rose.
Well, now you're speaking of daughters. I had this little nugget. A good friend of mine who actually played in Syracuse back in the early 90s. His name was Joe List Jr. And his dad, Joe List Sr., was a big, like, first baseman, DH for Cleveland, Philadelphia. He played like 10 years in the big leagues. His kid got drafted by Toronto, came through the system, played in Syracuse, had really two great AAA seasons. Toronto released him for some reason. Played 1 year with Cleveland and AAA Buffalo, and then just retired. But I always said, wow, that guy could have played in the big leagues, and he just didn't stay long. Well, his daughter is now grown up, and she was just named Jackie Liss. She was just named to the all-freshman Division I NCAA softball team as a shortstop. And she goes to Southern Illinois, the Salukis, who and I looked at the name of all the other freshmen, and it's UCLA, Stanford, Arizona State, and here's Jackie Liss. Southern Illinois isn't, you're considered your UCLA or Stanford or those West Coast softball teams, powerhouses, and she made it in shortstop, which is a pretty demanding position. So Joe Liss's daughter's done well, and she continues to do well. So congratulations, Jackie Liss. And I know her dad's real proud of her.
Congratulations, Jackie. We got to send her this clip or this program.
Definitely.
Congratulations. I'm glad you brought up women's softball, because I'll tell you, I love watching these women play. I don't know what your thoughts are, but hitting a softball that's coming at that distance, I think a lot of the major league, I don't know a lot of them, but some of them have gotten up and said, okay, I'm going to hit you. And they have a hard time hitting the women pitching.
Yeah, I played fast pitch softball back in the day, and I played baseball, so it's entirely different. And it's, to me, my daughter played softball, my boys played baseball. I enjoyed watching the softball games at CBA a lot more than the baseball games. There was more action. The girls are, I don't know, it just seems like the boys' baseball was just kind of laid back, and the softball was intense, and every pitch was intense. I enjoyed it more watching them play.
They've done a great job and they're really doing a good job of making it fun and exciting. And the women that play, the plays that they dive for, throwing around. It's entertaining. It's entertaining.
Well, yeah. Because everything's so close, you have to have quick reactions. And I think those girls have quicker reactions sometimes than the boys.
I think you're right, because
they're closer.
Yeah. Right. You have to play the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking here, actually, the NCAA tournament's going on as we speak. And we've got game 1. Tennessee is facing Alabama. That's going to be on ESPN. Oklahoma's taking on our Stanford Cardinal. Oklahoma's ranked number 1 and Stanford's number 9. So that's going to be on ESPN. Florida State versus Oklahoma State, and Washington versus Utah. So that's the College World Series for women. And I'm going to be watching it. I hope Stanford can advance, but it's going to be tough against the Boomer Sooners. And then the men's. Have you followed the men's tournament? They chose the brackets, and I've got to say this: there's the Southeastern Conference. John, they've got 10 teams in the Southeastern Conference going to the tournament. Is that amazing?
That's well, yeah. It's kind of like the basketball too. I think the SEC had the most teams, and it just seems like certain. Well, when you look at the conferences now, Michael, because they've combined. I mean, there's teams in the SEC now that never were in the SEC, so that kind of makes that league look even better. And before you know it, you're going to probably have 2 conferences and probably 50 teams in each conference. And so who knows what's going to happen down the road, the way they're adding and deleting teams.
Yeah.
Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC
Right.
next year, I think it is.
Yeah.
So that's going to make the SEC even more powerful.
Yeah. Well, the SEC, yeah, they've got 10 teams. The Atlantic Coast, and this is the NC2A men's baseball tournament. Atlantic Coast has 8 teams, which is pretty good for the Atlantic Coast. You're talking, Boston College made it, Clemson, Duke, Miami, Florida, North Carolina State, North Carolina, Virginia, Wake Forest. They're all in it.
And Wake Forest, I think, is the number 1 team in the country, aren't they?
Is Wake Forest the number 1 team?
They're the number 1 team, yeah.
Wow. That's Arnold Palmer's alma mater, Wake Forest.
Wake Forest, a young man who played with my son, Alex, Matthew Piro, who got drafted by the Washington Nationals, pitched at Wake Forest. And I believe they made it to the College World Series the 1 year he was there. So Wake Forest has had a good program over the years.
Oh, yeah. Great school. And then the Big 12 is the third. Big 12 got 6 teams into the baseball, the NC2A baseball tournament. Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas, even though Texas is moving next year to the SEC, Texas Tech, and West Virginia. And in 4th place, and this was surprising because it used to be the Pac, it was the Pac-8, and then it was the Pac-10. Now it's the Pac-12. They only got 5 teams. We only got 5 teams into the tournament. Arizona, Oregon, Oregon State, Stanford, and Washington. And can you believe Arizona State wasn't invited? The University of Southern California wasn't invited. UCLA wasn't invited. Is that amazing?
Wow, they must have had down years, huh?
I don't know. All I know, well, here's the thing that's interesting. And you talk about politics, because I think UCLA, those teams, UCLA, Arizona State, and USC, and I'm just going to list a few of the teams because these are the leagues. So you've got the Pac-12 at 5, the Sun Belt. They got 4 teams: Coastal Carolina, Louisiana, Southern Miss, and Troy. Now, I would like to see those teams play UCLA and see how they do.
Well, Coastal Carolina's got a good program. They won the national championship a few years ago.
No, I'm not arguing. I'm just saying, and you might be right. I mean, I don't know. But I just, but I haven't stopped here. The Big Ten, which is a great conference. They only got 3 teams: Indiana, Iowa, and Maryland. The Big Ten.
Big Ten's terrible in everything. I'm not a Big Ten.
I know. What do you mean terrible at everything?
Last year they got 10. I think they got 10 teams for college basketball, and not one of them made it after the first round. They were terrible.
That's going to change. I think you know what? I'm a big. I love the Big Ten. I love their spirit, and that we're going to have to disagree on that one.
We're going to disagree all year on that one.
Okay, all right. Well, then we'll go to the American Conference. These are 2 teams: American Conference, East Carolina and Tulane. Tulane, the Green Wave, they're in.
Yeah, they've had a good program for years.
And then the Big East, UConn and Xavier got 2 teams in the NC2A baseball tournament. Then the Colonial League got 2 teams: Northeastern and what is UNCW?
Is that Wilmington, North Carolina, Wilmington?
I think you're right. Actually, you're right. UNCW is University of North Carolina, Wilmington, who I think I had a friend whose son was a catcher on that team probably 5-10 years ago. Yep, I remember that. And then Conference USA got 2 teams: Charlotte, and what does DBU stand for?
DBU.
Is that Dallas? Is
Dallas Baptist?
Maybe it's Dallas Baptist, because they've had a pretty good baseball program. Yeah, they've got it. Yeah, DBU, and then the American East. Now you should know this because my grandfather, the scout, who's great friends with your father, he would go up there. I remember he'd go up there. The American East Conference got 1 team, Maine.
Wow.
Maine is representative. And I remember playing against Maine in the College World Series in Omaha, and they had a pretty good pitcher named Bill Swift.
Yeah, Billy Swift, yeah.
Pretty good pitcher. So
Yeah, yeah, they don't start playing baseball till like May, right? In May,
I know.
all
Well,
their games are on the road.
they made the tournament. So let's see. So here we go. Atlantic 10 got one, George Mason. I don't even know what ACUN, that's a league. Lipscomb got invited to the NC2A tournament. Then the Big South, Campbell got invited to the Big West. Now, the Big West, this is surprising to me. The Big West only got one team, and this is a team that Augie Garrido made famous. And you talk about coaching. Augie was one of the greatest college baseball coaches in history. He coached Cal State Fullerton and the University of Texas. And Cal State Fullerton's the only team to come out of the Big West for the tournament.
Wow. Is that where Utah and BYU are in the Big West? Or
No. Utah is Pac-12.
Oh, Pac-12 now. That's right. Yeah.
And then there's a league called the Horizon League, and Wright State got the pick from the Horizon League. And then I think the first time in 2 to 3 decades, first time the University of Pennsylvania is going to be representing the Ivy League. Penn got it.
Usually Yale is the team is dominant in that league. Yeah.
But then the Metro Atlantic, there's a Metro Atlantic League, and a Rider University got invited to the tournament. Rider. And then
that's probably why sometimes UCLA and those teams don't get in, because there has to be like the NCAA basketball conference champions get a seat.
What they're doing. That's what they're doing. And you know what? It's exciting because, as you know, John, in baseball, I mean, anyone can win on any given day, right? If you got good pitching.
Well, you weren't around because I think you were playing back then. Do you remember Jim DeShays and Tom Browning?
Absolutely.
That might have been your era.
Yep.
You may have played against them, but they played for Lemoyne College when Dick Rockwell was the coach back when Lemoyne was Division I baseball. Now they're and they went back to D2. Now they're in a couple of years they're going to be D1 again. But Dick Rockwell had those two guys, and they beat Arizona State, one of your Pac-12 teams, back in the early 80s to win a regional game. And I think they were within a game of making the College World Series that year. But they knocked out Arizona State, little Lemoyne College, enrollment 2,000 kids. And they had Jimmy DeShays from up north and Messina, New York, and Tom Browning. God knows where they got Tom from. But they had two good arms, and they could run those guys out every 3 days, and they did well.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why the format. I mean, the March Madness based basketball format is so exciting because a smaller team can go all the way to the and ride the wave, and baseball I think is saying, well, gosh, we can do the same thing. So you've got, so here's just finalizing the list here. Mid-American League is represented by Ball State, the Missouri Valley League, Indiana State got a bid for the tournament. The Mountain West, San Jose State is going to be playing Stanford, I think Thursday or Friday, and they got a regional. So San Jose State got the Mountain West bid. And the Northeast, there's the Northeast, league, Northeast League, Central Connecticut State.
And that's the league Lemoyne's going to be in when they go back to Division I. So this might be Central Connecticut State's last year in the tournament, because hopefully Lemoyne dominates it every year.
Yeah. And Lemoyne's right here. We can go watch. We can go watch.
They're coached by a local guy, Scott Cassidy, who played at Liverpool High School and then was drafted by the Blue Jays, played in the big leagues with San Diego and Toronto as well. And he's been at Lemoyne for a number of years now, at least 10 or 12 years, and does a good job up there.
Well, we would be remiss. We got to mention, I want to just take my hat off to my Uncle Tom, who's been the head baseball coach at your alma mater, Christian Brothers Academy, my father's alma mater. And Uncle Tom went to CBA, and my cousins, Henry went to CBA, and his children are at CBA. Well, Cody went there, and Joey went there, and Saku's now there. And the baseball team had a great run, and they played this past week and it was Liverpool that knocked them out of the sectional tournament. But I gotta take my hat off to Uncle Tom, because I don't know if there's anyone in the country that's coached a high school team from when he started. What was in the early '80s, I think.
Yeah, it was 70. My last year at CBA, I graduated 78 and he came in 79. So
Yeah,
he's been there since 1979.
1979, and Uncle Tom is getting close to 90 years old.
Yeah, and he still looks great. We went and saw a game, and he's still got his little notebook where he writes down little notes about every player and what they do, and probably has to be one of the most successful high school baseball coaches in the country. He doesn't worry about winning. Winning's not important to him. It's developing young men and seeing what they do later on. But he likes to win along the way, and he has won. And while he's won a number of sectional championships, I know both my sons won sectionals at different times, and I know he's won more than that. He's got to be the only guy that's been in the sectional finals more than anybody. He's probably won 10 and lost 10, but to be in 20 sectional finals over a certain period of time is unbelievable. And
well, they did win one state championship. He did win one
right.
state. He did win one. I don't know. Was your son on the team?
No, he was like a freshman or an eighth grader, but we used to go to all the games because he was going to play for CBA, so he wanted to see what it was like. But they had a great team. A lot of kids went on to play Division I. That team, and that was probably his crowning moment. But Tom will tell you he likes the team that struggles to win just as much as the team that wins. And he always tells you, like we were talking one day when we went and saw him, and he told you he thinks he has a pretty good team this year. Well, usually he tells you, this team's terrible. And they go 7. The team my son was on, he said, I don't think we're going to be good this year. End of the year, they were 17-1. I said, Tommy, 17-1. I thought you weren't going to be good. Yeah, well, maybe the league's not that good this year.
Yeah.
So, he always had an answer, and great coach. Probably one of the best coaches ever in this area.
Well, he's my Uncle Tom. He's just a great person, and I can kudos to you, Uncle Tom, for serving the community as a coach here and helping kids learn that you learn more from adversity. And when you're falling, that's how you learn. There's a saying I always say: you fail your way to the top. So if you're out there listening, you're a young kid or you're a parent, and your child is struggling, if they're struggling, that's how they're learning. Embrace failure, because it's not a bad thing. It basically means, oh, I shouldn't do that. I need to make some changes. And what's the definition of insanity?
I remember hearing it, but
doing the same thing over and over again and expecting things to change.
That's right.
That's the great thing about failure, because you learn and then you say, well, if I want to change, I got to do something different. And it's just part of life. So,
well, it's funny. It's funny when when I was watching my kids play for Tom, if we were at a visiting field where you could see the dugout, I'd always see all the players sitting around Tom. And, normally when you're playing high school baseball, no one's sitting around the coach. The coach is off yelling at somebody or whatever. And I asked my son one day, I go, why does everybody sit around Tom? He goes, Dad, Mr. Dodder's like the greatest, funniest guy. He's got more stories. I go, during the game? He goes, yeah, he's telling us stories when he played in Jersey City and this, something happened on the field, and he would, reminisce about a story of what happened to him. And they just love playing for him. And to this day, I think a lot of us parents thought Tom had a kind of unusual way of coaching. But to this day, every kid that's ever played for him, they all say it's the greatest coach I ever played for.
Wow.
So I know my kids did, and all the kids that played with him that are his friends, they just loved him.
Yeah.
And love him till this day, too. They come back and see him. And I know when my son was home, he went and saw Coach Dodder, and he always remembers the name. And I know when we saw him, he always asked me how my two boys are doing that he coached. And he's always interested in what they're doing after baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's thank you for those kind words for Uncle Tom. He's quite a fella. And I just getting back to the baseball, the final list here of teams. Eastern Illinois made it. West Point Army is going to be in the NC2A.
Wow.
The Patriot League. They're representing the Patriot League, Army. Southern League, Samford. I remember first hearing the word, "Oh, I went to Samford," and I said, "You mean Stanford?" No, Samford. Well, they're representing the southern section, Samford, SAMFORD, which is they have a long history of sports. I was just not very intelligent at the time when I heard that. The Southland team is Nichols. I think, is it Nichols State or is it Nichols University?
I think it's now Nichols. I think it was Nichols State, and they changed it to Nichols.
Yep. And then the SWAC, which I believe is the what does that stand? The Southwest Athletic Conference.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Florida A&M got a bid for the baseball tournament. Florida A&M. And then here's a school that really has done well all through the years. They were, when I played back in Omaha many, many years ago, they were in Omaha. And they have a league called the Summit League, which I'm thinking, all of us want to do good deeds and we want to reach, heaven, the summit. Well, guess who's representing the Summit League? Oral Roberts.
Oh, okay.
So they want to. I don't know if they've ever won, but they've always been strong baseball. Oral Roberts, Oklahoma, and then two other. The last two teams. One team has had great baseball through the years. Santa Clara University.
Santa Clara.
And the Bay Area, Santa Clara. There's a West Coast League, and their rival is St. Mary's. I coached at St. Mary's College many, many years ago. And they're in the West Coast League. And so Santa Clara got a bid. And then the final team, which you might have a story about this school. I don't know if I do, but I see them all the time. They put out pretty good athletes. Sam Houston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sam Houston, which is in Texas. They're the Western Athletic Conference. They made it. So anyway, that tournament, the NCAA Division I baseball championship, starts on June 2nd. And they're all trying to get to Omaha, which is quite an experience. I mean, so there you have it.
Maybe next week we talk about some of your experiences.
Oh, we could talk. Yeah. I just
the question is,
I remember the question. The question is, do I remember those experiences? But I did have a couple things that I wanted to just throw out. That this past weekend, and I don't know the name, but Joseph. I want to congratulate Joseph Newgarden. Do you know that name, Joseph Newgarden?
No.
Well, guess what he won this weekend?
I don't know.
The Indianapolis 500.
Oh, okay. Used to follow that, but
I know
NASCAR kind of took over, and no one. I mean, Indianapolis 500 is still big, but it's not like it used to be when I was a kid. You knew all the racers.
I know Mario Andretti, AJ Foyt, the Unser brothers, Jackie Stewart. Yeah. Anyway, those are the days. But anyway, congratulations to Joseph Newgarden. Hopefully we'll get to know him. It was his first win at Indy. And then guess what else? That's an event, and I would love to go there. I don't know if you would like to, but if you want to someday, it's on my bucket list. Which, by the way, I learned you can also use a different word for bucket, but I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
This is G-rated. But anyway, the Grand Prix of Monaco. This past weekend. And I have been to Monaco many, many years ago. Thanks to my former wife. She got us to Monaco, and it was a lot of fun. And Max Verstappen, who's a very good, he's a top guy in Formula One. He won, and it was a rain-filled event. So congratulations to Max Verstappen. And I guess a couple other things. We talked about Tom Brady. Oh, Major League Baseball. This is interesting. You might have a comment on this, John. Major League Baseball takes over Padres broadcast after bankrupt Diamond Sports Group misses rights payments. Can you talk about that? Yeah,
it was a company that had rights for probably 16 teams in baseball, and it's usually the lesser teams. I don't mean the Padres are a lesser team, but teams that don't have big contracts like Kansas City and Cleveland, and the Yankees have the Yes Network and all those, and the Mets have Sterling Mets, and but the lesser teams their rights were owned by that company, and the company went bankrupt, and Major League Baseball had to make good to make sure all these broadcasts continued on because it makes their product better. So they've had to come in, but don't worry, Major League Baseball has a lot of money and they'll be able to weather this storm. And then I'm sure in each city there'll be new rights agreements that'll come about in a year or so. But yeah, they had to come in and bail them out basically.
Well, speaking of Monday, that's a good segue because we would be remiss. There's a couple things, and we you're not supposed to talk about these things, but we do, and we want to talk about them in a positive way. But we hope that the congressmen and women can get their act together and get this debt ceiling situation. Any thoughts on the debt ceiling issue here in the United States?
Well, I try not to get involved in politics. I used to be a very political person. Actually worked on a campaign for one of my friends here in Syracuse when he ran for New York State Comptroller. And I saw the shenanigans that happened in an election. And I know that, a lot of times it's just a game that they play. And it seems like the media enjoys playing in the game. And meanwhile, the rest of us have to work and make money and pay taxes. And it seems like, if we were running government, we would run it like, we run our households and wouldn't overspend and wouldn't do the things that they do. And
yep.
Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. And yeah, hopefully they can vote on taking care of this and getting the country on the right path and getting prices down and all the things that make us happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, you mentioned it, game, entertainment. I mean, it seems like politics and government's turned into entertainment, and that is not a good thing. So for all you young people, and to, John, and I'm an old person. John, I don't know if you want to call yourself an old person, but I do not want to make government and politics entertainment. I mean, we should laugh and be able to, to take things lightly, but these are serious issues. And so I guess I just have to say I'm praying for the senators and the congressmen and women to just do the right thing. That's the key, do the right thing. And then this is the final thing, being half Ukrainian, being someone that's been to Kyiv, and to see that, drone attacks in Moscow, I feel this is like a surreal experience because I mean, I've been to Moscow. I really think I implore the Biden administration I'm hoping they're on the phone with the Kremlin and with Putin saying this is crazy because this is how things escalate. Yeah. And I just don't think the Russians are going to continue tolerating these kind of things. And it's just going to ratchet up. And we've seen this in the history. So I'm just going to pray that the Biden administration seeks out peace. And if they don't, then I'm going to pray that we have a new administration in 2024 that seeks peace. And that's my word on that. What are your thoughts, John?
Well, yeah, I mean, nothing ever good comes of war, right? Every war that's ever been fought, people die, and it's just not good. And you think that the leaders would have enough history behind them, like Mr. Putin and Mr. Biden and the rest of them, that they would, you think they could end this. It's 2023. You think in today's world that no war could even start because either side could end it. And like you said, it could be one stupid thing that happens by one crazy person, and then all hell breaks loose and nuclear bombs are thrown around. Like when we were growing up, we used to remember have a nuclear bomb attack shelter we used to have to go to. Remember, we used to hide under our desk in school and have to go downstairs at Our Lady of Pompeii and hide in the certain rooms. And I think our kids have never gone through that, and it's going to be a interesting experience for a lot of young people today to see what we had to go through when there was a thought of nuclear war back in the day.
Yeah. So, well, we got to peace at all costs. We just need to do it because we do have the technology to do terrible destructive things. And that's just what we need to do. We need to break the fight up immediately. So again, please, if any of you have a direct line to President Biden or Mr. Putin, please let's get our insanity back. So the final, I always like to leave on a good note. A couple things of note that are kind of funny. New Zealand's national airline is asking passengers to step on the scales before they board international flight.
I saw that. That's like the dumbest thing ever.
What is that? And they say, I guess they want to weigh 10,000 passengers during the monitoring survey so pilots can better know how the weight and balance of their planes take off, before takeoff. So,
Were you ever on a plane and the stewardess comes down and says, would you mind sitting over there? We have to balance the plane. And I'm like, are you kidding me? If I sit here, this plane's going to go down. It doesn't make any sense. And, but, look at the size of people today. People are eating and getting bigger and bigger. And I've been on planes, believe me. And I wondered if I bought half a seat or a full seat sitting next to some people. So,
well, a perfect time
for that.
For Zip Slim. And I love this. I take my Zip Slim every day. And I think I'm down to 199, first time in 25 years. And John, you're starting your Zip Slim program.
Yes, I have to start that right away. And I gotta hurry up because you might start catching me pretty soon.
Well, there it is. If people want Zip Slim, you can go to zipslim.info/LittleText. And it's the most amazing elixir I've ever tried. I have my Zip Slim a half hour before every meal, which is my two biggest meals. I only have 2 meals, and I have it half hour before, and whatever's in it, it's amazing. So if you're struggling with your weight, and it's not just weight, if you want to get your immune system up, because that's, when you get a virus or you don't feel good, you got to get your immune system up. So those two factors, your immune system and getting your weight down. And Zip Slim, what it does, what differentiates Zip Slim from other products is there's a switch called AMPK. And that's, all of us have that. It's an enzyme. And most of us, and I'm one of them, and John, you're probably one too, that switch is turned off. And when we eat, somehow things just start growing. And, but there are people out there, they eat whatever they want and they never gain weight. And it's because the AMPK switch is turned on. And so it's a kind of a new discovery, and people are finding out. And Zip Slim just reached they're only a very young company. They just hit the $1 million a month mark, and they're growing. So it's a great product, and it keeps you away from drinking all those drinks that aren't very good for you.
That's right.
I just put this in my water. I just put it looks like this. It's a little packet, and I just put it in water and drink it. And it also somehow makes me want to drink more water. So hydration when it comes to health is critical. So in any event, John, as you know, you get the last word. And I want to thank you. And you could talk as long as you want about whatever subject. And I'm just going to put you back on, and you can take us out. And thanks, everybody. We'll be back on next week. And hopefully we'll know more about the women's softball, men's baseball. We'll have a good idea about the NBA, who's going to, whether it's Colorado, Denver, or Miami. And then the NHL, the Panthers, versus the Golden Knights in Las Vegas. And the Zhang, the Rose Zhang, we're going to see if she wins this tournament. If she were to win this tournament in New Jersey, John, holy mackerel, I don't think we've seen anything like it. So you might want to tune into that.
I'm sure it's on the Golf Channel. We can probably watch it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Mizuho. It's called the Mizuho America's Open in Jersey City, New Jersey, at the Liberty National Golf Course, where the President's Cup was played there in 2017.
That's right. Yeah.
So, John, take us out, brother, and you have a great rest of the week.
And you too, Michael. Enjoyed it, and hopefully, maybe we can get Alex on next week. We'll give him a call and see if we can get him to come on and talk a little bit about health and how he's got to be where he was. So. Enjoyed it again. Look forward to doing it again next week with you.